Hi guys, so I'm Sean from Crag & Compass, and today we're going to be looking at your stoves and meals that you're going to cook on your stoves, how they work and how to look after them. So without further ado, let's move on. We have a Trangia stove. When you receive this from us, it'll be in a lovely coloured bag. It'll be, so if you're in a pink bag, you're the pink team, there may be an orange, a green, a yellow. Just lets you know this is your stove, okay? So in there, we're gonna pull it out and you'll have your lovely stove like this. Now, before we get into that, we need to make sure this is looked after, so keep it close by, because what you'll end up doing is putting things into here to make sure that they all stay together and that you don't lose anything. So to start off, we take the strap off of the Trangia, take that off and pull it all the way through. Now, we don't want to lose this, so we're gonna pop it straight into that bag. We've then got a frying pan. So this is gonna be a frying pan. Open this out here, and we've got 2 saucepans, and then this all pulls apart, and we've got the base of your stove and a bit of a windshield where your frying pan and your saucepans will sit on top. Now, so inside of here, we also have a small bag which is gonna contain, if we open that up, so it's going to have your handle for your stove, and it's also going to have your gas burner there. So the gas burner is really important. That's where your flame's going to come from. Let's pop that down to one side. And again, I've got a bag spare there. So we're going to pop it into here and make sure that doesn't get lost. Now that can go tucked away in a pocket somewhere. Pop it back into your rucksack. Just make sure it doesn't blow away or get left lying around on camp. So in the stove, we've got, as I said, that kind of windshield and the support and the base plate. Now you'll notice on the bottom, on this base plate here, there are 3 parts that come out, and in the bottom here you'll notice 3 little indents, and what we need to do, we need to line them up so they all slide in nicely, and then we twist that stove so that it all stands together as one unit. Find a nice flat bit of ground where you're cooking, and that is pretty much looking good to go from here. Next step, we're going to take that stove and you end with the valve. So we've got a valve here that will make sure that you can control how much gas comes through when you're burning. We've got that there, and we're going to drop the valve through that hole, and we're going to make sure, and I'm going to take the top off of this so you can really see it, we're going to make sure that this plate sits flat on the base, and that's not at an angle or anything. That's nice and flat and it's nice and safe. What we then want to do is make sure that underneath, this part here is pointing towards this hole on the side. So we're going to turn that so it lines up with it. And then what we can do, we're going to pop the valve through that gap, pull it all through, and make sure there's no kinks in it, and make sure it comes through nice and straight. Lovely there. Pop it back down, and then we can pop that base back on the top, give it a twist, and we're good to go. Next thing we need to do with your gas canister. So you might have a little cap on top, you might not. Once you've opened it, take it off, and that can go in the bin or in my pocket for now. And then we're going to attach it. And as I said, there's a valve on the end, and there's also a little valve here that the gas canister is going to attach to. Now, when you're doing this, you always turn the gas canister. Don't turn this because it won't go anywhere. So what we do, there's a little pin in here and a little hole there, and they're going to line up. And we're just going to gently start to turn it, and it'll eventually catch. So now that's caught on there, but the pin's not gone in enough to release the gas. So what we do at this point, we make sure we're holding this part here nice and firm, and we just twist it quite quickly. It will go tight. Sometimes you might hear a little hiss, there might be a tiny bit of gas that comes out. Just keep twisting nice and fast, and then tighten it up. Not too tight, you just want to make sure it's nice and tight there. Pop it down, and we're almost good to go here. At this point, it's really important that you find an instructor, so a member of the Crag & Compass team. They'll come across, check this out for you to make sure that it's safely set up and that you're good to light it. Excellent. So at this point, we're now ready to light that stove. So now you've got 2 choices here. One where you can take your lighter or your flint and steel, whatever you've got, matches, and you can go in from the top and try and strike it. But what we tend to do and what we like you to do, take this windshield off again, pop it to one side. Now, the gas, remember I said about that valve, if we turn it to the left, it will let gas come through, which hopefully you can hear. If I turn it to the right, it turns it off again. So to start off with, we don't want it roaring out of gas. We want it nice and steady, so nice and gentle with the gas coming through. I've got my lighter. Make sure you know how they light and that they work and that you're happy with the flame. And we're going to turn the gas on. When I come in to light it, I'm going to come in from the side so the flame comes up away from my thumb, and it will light that when the gas comes through. So, tiny bit of gas on, gentle little hiss, come in from the side, and you've got a flame. Now at that point, you can put your lighter away or out the way nice and safe, pop the windbreak back over, give that a twist, that's nice and secure, and now we're ready to start boiling up some water. So, never put a pan empty onto a flame. Always make sure there's water in there before you put it on. So, I've got my water bottle, I'm going to pour some water in, and I don't want to fill it up all the way because I'm only cooking for me here, so just enough water to boil up enough pasta for me to be able to have my dinner. Now before I do that, these 3 prongs are very important. The way they are currently would be great to put the frying pan on with the handle there. I've grabbed that frying pan and it would sit on top. I want them to be in, so we pop them in, and I'm using the handle to do that. And then with this handle, I just drop the bottom out, so I'm holding the top of it there, pop it over the side of my saucepan, squeeze it together, and then it just rests in nicely there. Move that out the way, pop it to one side, don't lose it. And then what we do, we can turn that valve up. So remember, turning it to the left opens it up lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. If it goes tight, you're going to turn it off. So we're going to turn that up, and we're going to wait for this to boil now. That might take a few minutes, and we'll come back to it once it's boiling. Lovely, so we're waiting for the water to boil here, and while that's on, it becomes a danger. So you've got an open flame, you've got water that's going to be heating up, and essentially when it's ready, it's going to start boiling. So we need to make sure that we're being safe around it. So I've moved away about 1 metre from that stove. There's no one running around next to me. If you've got your group with you, you should all be a similar distance away, and you're not sat on the floor. So you'll notice I'm kind of prone with my feet on the floor. I've got shoes on, so my feet are protected if water was to spill out. I could take a knee there and just sit back a bit. Essentially, you need to be able to move quickly should something happen to this, so you can lean in and turn it off quick, or you can move away and to a safe distance should something go wrong with that stove. Excellent. So the water's boiling, and at that point I can turn it down a little bit because you don't want it to go out of control. And with that, we're going to use some pasta. Now, I've got an entire packet of pasta here. If you're cooking for 2 or 3 people, that's great. I am just cooking for me, so what I could have done is emptied some of this out at home, or if you've got half a bag of pasta knocking about indoors, bring that because it's less weight to carry. This is a 500 grams, so a half a kilogram bag of pasta. If I only need half of it, I could have saved 250 grams in my backpack that I have to carry. So do consider that when you're packing and when you're planning your food. So, and again, you'll notice I'm still maintaining a safe stance when I'm next to the stove. I don't want to have any accidents. Got that there. Again, don't litter while you're on site, so pop all that rubbish away. And we're just going to pour in the amount of pasta that we need. And I've brought along a spoon with me because it's really important that we make sure we can stir this so it doesn't stick to the base of the pan. And what we're going to do there, we'll bring it back up to the boil. So again, turning that to the left. So as your stove starts to boil away, you'll notice it starts to come through, so bubbling up, and we've got lots of foam there. So make sure we keep stirring it, and it may start to boil over like it would at home if you're cooking at home. So what you can do is just turn it down a little, so turning it to the right, just a tiny bit there. And then we'll see that this is a really nice place to have it. It's just simmering away, boiling quite nicely. And while that's doing that, we're going to move on to the next part of what we're going to add to our lunch, right? Excellent. So next part here, we're going to get ready for what we do once the pasta's cooked. Now, I'm going to cook up some chorizo, and I'm going to have some spinach and some tomatoes in there as well. But what I want is a little bit of oil. Now, if I'm on a 2, 3, or if I'm on a 4-day expedition and I'm cooking for 2 or 3 nights, I don't want to bring an entire 1 litre bottle of oil. So I've got a small travel bottle, and I've put a tiny amount in there that will just look up. It'll be enough for us to use while we're on expedition. And what I'll do, take the lid off, and in the frying pan, I'm just going to pour a little bit around so it doesn't stick. And again, it's a lot lighter. I'm not carrying a litre of liquid. I'm carrying, 50 mil, 100 mil maybe max. What I've also got is a small little one here with some salt and pepper and a bit of seasoning. We're going very, very bougie with our dinner. But hey, you guys have been out for a long day, walking through the woods, through fields, through hills and mountains. You're going to want some really good food at the end of that day. So, if you can do some little perks, add a bit of spice in there maybe, do it. If it's really light, so it's not going to add too much to your backpack, you can absolutely do that. And while we're still cooking there, going to make sure this still gets a stir every minute maybe. Keep an eye on it, make sure that it looks okay. And that's ready for once this is done, we're going to pop that on top of there, fry it off quickly. And what I've also done, I've been a bit cheeky, I've bought some pre-chopped chorizo there, which you're going to throw in. You don't have to bring a whole chorizo sausage, unless maybe you're having this for 2 or 3 nights, absolutely do that. It's a cooked meat, which means it should be fine for your expedition, as long as it's not too hot. And we'll wait for this to boil. So I think we're almost done with the pasta, so I'm going to just hook one out onto my spoon, give it a little blow. Perfect, so that's good to go. I'm going to leave the gas on, but again with the handle, holding onto the top part there, let it drop down over the side of your saucepan, and I'm just going to bring that off, pop it somewhere safe. Now you will strain this, and we'll go over that in a moment. But what we're going to do first, well, that's safely out of the way, I'm going to turn the gas down a touch, and we prepared this saucepan a little bit earlier. So I've got some oil in there, that's ready to go. I've got some chorizo here. You can use veggie sausages, you can use frankfurters, you could use any kind of cooked meat or vegetarian alternative, that's entirely up to you. Just make sure it's not going to spoil if it's in your backpack. So I'm going to pour that in. I'm going to just move it around a bit in there, let some oil get over it, and then I'm going to pull out these prongs again. I'm going to pop that down. Remember, we talked about these prongs, so I'm going to hold on to the side so it doesn't move too much with my spoon, take those prongs out, pick that up, rest it on the top. Now I don't want this too hot for this one, because otherwise it's going to burn the pan. The chorizo is going to cook really, really quickly and it's going to ruin it. So turn it up a little bit. You might need to add a little bit more oil, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper on it when it's cooking away. I'm going to get my chorizo ready and my tomatoes. What you could do, because you're cooking as a group, hopefully, somebody else in your team could go and strain the pasta out, so that's ready for when they come back, and we're good to go with the chorizo and everything else that's going on in here. Just helps you save a bit of time. But that's, as you can see now, starting to cook away quite nicely. That should only take a few minutes, and then we'll chuck the spinach and the tomatoes in as well. And we'll leave that cooking for now. And keep an eye on this, keep stirring it. You don't want it to stick to the pan. If it seems like it's too hot, just turn it down a little bit. It's starting to smell really good. Cool, so our chorizo's cooking away quite nicely there. It's almost done. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to add in, and this is just some spinach and tomatoes that I've put into a small bag. Add those all in. And again, we don't want that to blow away, so pop it in a pocket or in your bag or something, and we're going to let the spinach wilt down. And again, if this looks a bit unsteady, you can always grab that handle and just hold on to the side of it as you do this. If you feel like you need to turn it down at all, you can always take that off. Just turn that flame down a little bit. Bring it back on. If it feels like it's getting too hot and turning it down is going to be, isn't going to cool it quick enough, do just take it off. Don't be afraid to do that. I can take it off, give it a little stir. That will cool down nicely, and then I can pop it back on the heat if I need to. So I'm happy with how this is now. I think we're good to go with that. Fried off the spinach, that's wilted down nicely. The chorizo's cooked and the tomatoes are looking lovely. So I'm going to actually turn the gas off now. I'm going to turn it down, sorry, I'm not going to turn it off, just turn it down. I'm going to take my plate that I'm going to eat out of, pop it to one side, and I'm just going to pour this into there. So that's in there looking good. And be aware this is going to be hot. So with this, we're going to pop it to one side. And then we're going to strain our pasta. So some of your stoves are going to come with a strainer like this. Alternatively, you can just use the saucepan lid if it's not too hot. And what we do, we're going to hold this in the way, pour through, hold the pasta back. If there's too much steam coming out the top, you might get a bit of a warm hand. So just blow that out of the way, holding it all in position. Excellent. So we've been cooking away. Kept this area relatively tidy. Things I could have done, so if I finished with the pasta, that could have gone back into my rucksack behind me. It just means there's fewer things around that we're going to trip over. Rubbish, if you've got a bin bag on the go, make sure that goes into your bin bag as well. I've been keeping it just down here out of the way. But yeah, we like a tidy campsite. If you're being assessed, so if you're on your assessed expedition, it's one of the big things that assessors are going to look for. They don't want a messy campsite with all your stuff outside your tent. Keep it tidy. Also, you then don't lose things. You don't lose equipment that's been loaned to you, and it just makes for a happier experience. So I've strained the pasta now. I've got my chorizo, spinach and tomatoes all nicely cooked there, and I've got a choice of sauces here that I'm going to add to it. So I've got two examples here. So I've got like a dolmio stir-in tomatoey pasta sauce, and I've got another one here in a glass jar. And again, both the same. However, this one is in a glass jar. This one's in like a plastic container. It is recyclable. This weighs a lot more than this. So this is a 400-gram jar. Most of that's in the glass. This is 150 grams maybe. And there's enough there to make a nice pasta and to probably get 2 people's dinners, maybe 3 people's dinners out of that. So again, going back to that weight of what you're carrying, glass jar, it might break as well. Plastic container, it's nice and easy. Try and bring one of those. Alternatively, you could put it in make a tomato sauce at home, pop it in a sandwich bag and freeze it. Pop it in your bag before you come on expedition and let it defrost throughout the day. Now I'm going to not use this, I'll use that at home. So pop it to one side. This one here is what we are going to use. So again, bit of litter. I've got my rubbish just down here. I'm going to open up that sauce. And always remember as well, with anything you cook, so any meals that you plan as a group, do consider what other people may have in terms of allergies. We are a no nut provider, so please don't bring anything that contains nuts, be that your dinner, your snacks, anything like that. We avoid nuts altogether, but people might have a milk, dairy allergy, they might be allergic to sesame or something. Just check with your teammates to make sure there's no allergies there. So with this, I'm going to pop these back in, and I'm going to turn the gas right down low, so it's nice and low, barely coming through. And we're going to do this quite quickly. So I'm going to pour in the sauce, I'm going to pop that on top. Make sure that's nice and stable. Use my spoon to get the rest of that out if I need to. And again, that's rubbish, so pop it where your rubbish is. That handle, again, grab onto the side, and we're going to start to stir that. There now, looks really tasty. We're done. I've turned the gas out, that's safe. And what we do, that's obviously going to be hot, so we're going to leave that to cool down for about 10 or 15 minutes. Make sure it's nice and cool. To speed that up, we can take that windshield off, and to do that, I'm going to pop this down, and then this, you can hold the base there, that shouldn't be too hot, give that a little twist, pull it off, and then that can just go on the floor. And then with this, again, remember it's hot, we're just going to serve it up, and we're good to go. So you've got to wash up, so make sure everything gets nice and tidy. Make sure that you're not leaving loads of food in the sink. We don't want blocked plug holes, we don't want upset campsite owners coming over and asking who's left all that pasta in the plug. So make sure you've emptied it out into the bin before you wash it up. But that is perfectly fine, lovely and clean. Once it's clean, put it to the side, and then we'll start drying it after, and then we'll talk about how it all goes back together. So we've come back, we've got our clean pots that we've just washed up. Make sure that they're dry, don't want any water on there. Check around the rims there that there's no bits of food stuck in. Make sure they're out, because we really don't want those left in when these go back into storage. Now we've gone to wash up, so that's taken us 10, maybe 15 minutes. So this should be nice and cool now, and I can't feel any heat coming off of it. and I can touch the sides there and it feels quite cool. So we're going to take this apart, pack it all down. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm going to show you a different type of stove, which is very similar to this, but just has a couple of different features on it. So to pack this down to start off with, we do everything in reverse. So gas canister is going to come off. And again, remember, we twist that gas canister. We're going to hold the valve here. So holding that, we're going to twist, and it might have a little spurt of gas, but we just twist nice and fast, and then that's off. Put that to one side, somewhere nice and safe. And then we're going to pick up our base. And remember, we've got these two bits here that we're going to pull in to pull this out. Make sure that the valve comes through. Oh, might need to give that a little bit of encouragement. There we go. Pull that all the way through. And pop that down just to one side. My saucepan, the smaller saucepan, goes inside the bigger one. The other way around. Goes inside there. And I've then got the windshield. So this is going to go inside your base. We're then going to pull out those prongs that everything sits on, and we're going to pop the saucepans inside there. Now I need to find my little bag, which is still in my pocket, so I know where it is. I've not lost it. I'm not walking around the campsite trying to find it. And inside of the orange bag, I'm going to pop this burner, and this, try not to fold it, just give it a nice wrap round. Ooh, wrong one. And we're just going to pop that inside the bag. Make sure that's nice and dry. Handle's going to go in there as well. One last thing with the burner, you can give this a wipe clean, but don't put it in water because it will clog it up and it won't work properly. So when you're washing everything up, if you've got any food on this, just get a damp cloth and just give it a wipe to clean it off. So that all goes in there. Do that up, pull that together, pop it inside. The prongs all go back in. The lid goes back on top. In here I've got the strap. And with this, really important this bit, because it helps with stacking on our end. The end of the cord goes down and through one of these little holes and openings here. Pull that all the way through so the buckle's on the side. We really like the buckles being on the side. Come around here, push that back up, pull it through, tighten it off, push it through there. So I'm just pulling that down to open up this kind of claw grip, push that through, put it nice and tight. Everything's in. Got my bag because I'm in the pink team. Goes back in the pink bag. And then this is all done. Everything's in there and we're happy days. And we'd just like to say thank you to St Paul's Catholic College for letting us use this stove as a demonstration. Just for everybody else, because you may not have a silver Trangia stove. We may have one of these lava endurance stoves, which we also give out. They will come in a bag as well. And with these, very similar, the strap comes off. You've got your frying pan, you've got your handle, which is the main difference here. We'll have a look at that. But again, you've got your gas burner in here, you've got your two saucepans, and you've got the base and the windshield, which goes together and becomes one unit. The main difference with this stove, and again, your burner will go through the hole in the middle, the valve will come out the side, but this handle has one that has a spring on it. So instead of having to hold the top and letting it drop down, it comes together like that. So when you're picking things up, you can have it in your hand and you just hold it there. And when you let go, it will ping open. That's the main difference with that one. So you may have one of these stoves, you may have a Trangia or a silver one here. They're the two different